am very control freaky. And I think this labor also taught me you can educate yourself and have all these tools and still go with the flow in some sense. And I think that was really important to me, for me to learn, especially in parenthood. Like, you can't control it all.
Welcome to the Birth Education Center podcast, hosted by myself, Care Messer, an entrepreneur, birth educator, and doula. My team and I want to help you discover your options in birth and postpartum, how to find your voice, and how to use that voice to navigate our maternal healthcare system. You and your baby are not just a number. This information includes doulas too. Now let's get started. Welcome back today to our last February Love Fest video and podcast for those of you who are not watching on YouTube. I have Alenna here today and she's going to tell us her birth story, and I'm so excited she's here.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, Care.
We've got Dad taking the baby on the walk, so it's quiet, and the dog's even there. So nice and quiet and no licking on the ankles. So that's fun. I would like to know, to tell our listeners, what did you two do to prepare for your birth, and what brought you to hypnobirthing specifically?
Yeah, it's a funny story how we decided to go through hypnobirthing. We had never heard of it, like ever. We'd known that we wanted to do, or I was hoping to have an unmedicated birth. That was my hope plan, if you will. We can only plan so much in birth, but that was my hope when I got pregnant, is I could do unmedicated. And we were looking at different options. And one of our friends, who was actually a labor and delivery nurse, was talking to another one of our friends who was further along in her pregnancy about just different births that she had seen and witnessed. And our friend had asked her what was the most, not even painless, but just like serene labor she had seen, and what was it and why. And immediately she said hypnobirthing. She's like, those moms come in, they just know what they're doing. They're in the zone. They know what they want to do. They have their tools, they have their doula, and they're just ready to go. And I just remember my husband and I looked at each other and said, we should look into that. Like, that sounds up our alley, you know? So when we got home, because we were actually on a marriage retreat when we talked to them, we got home and I immediately, I'm very type A, immediately did all the research. Who can I talk to? Where is this? How do we do it? Is it on Zoom? Is it in person? And we found you. And honestly, probably the best decision we made for our birth and to be able to prep was to go through the classes and just get educated. That's a really big thing for me, is just being educated and going into situations where I feel like I can make informed decisions and not feeling like I have no control. I'm also a control freak, type A control freak. We kind of go hand in hand.
You're speaking to the choir.
So
yeah.
It was really helpful.
Yeah. And we had a really fun class too. Everybody really got along and was really interactive, which sometimes with Zoom, people are like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, our Zoom classes are really fun.
No, we had a great time, and everyone had a dog, which was like also kind of fun. So I feel like every time we met, we all would just also show our dogs. So like our dogs could say hi to each other.
I mean, those are our first babies.
Absolutely.
So there's something about not having to travel, find parking, be stressed out, get you two of you to the same car to get there, or taking two cars and not having parking because we're in a big city. And then you get to sit on your couch, eat your mac and cheese, and pet your dog or your cat.
No,
and
honestly,
we've had chickens attend before, and iguanas. Everybody has random animals that get to come to class when you do it on Zoom.
I love that.
Yeah, bonding with the animals makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, there's so many benefits to Zoom. I know that people can be a little weary because I think we've all been in Zoom meetings, right?
Yep.
Like, this could have been an email. Like, why are we here? Like
this whole class could have been an email.
Yeah, like, what are we doing here? But you do such a great job of just like building the community. And I think it's such a niche community for all of us. Like, we're there for a reason. We want to be there. We want to learn. And then we have people that are in the same journey and the same mindset, because sometimes you tell people you're doing hypnobirthing and they look at you like you have a second head.
Yeah.
They're like, why would you do that? And I'm like,
and you may have a second head when you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's nice because then you have the community.
Yeah. I love our parents. I love our classes. And it's like attracts like. I think the right people come in every time. Mm-hmm. And if it's 3 couples, they need to be together. If it's 8 couples, we need to be together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I appreciate that too. I love it. All right. Tell our listeners about your birth story. Where did it start and all the things? Oh, and I have to tell you, Alenna was my first guinea pig on using the peanut ball. But I think that really did a number anatomy-wise on where you were when you showed up to the hospital. Yeah. So the trick we did with the peanut ball, because there's a midwife in town that teaches peanut ball and she does this trick, and it works so well for her moms. And her moms are so much further along when labor starts physically further along because of where their baby is placed, because it is the position of the baby more than anything else. And basically, there's a way we sit kind of in a tailor sit with the peanut ball, a half an hour on one side and half an hour on the other side. So the idea is watch some trash TV every night, Love Island, whatever it is you're going to watch, and switch that off so that baby can come in at a different angle, keeps that pelvis nice and flexible and fluid. And and Alenna's like, I'll do it. I'm up. And she did it. So anyway, tell us your story.
Yeah, my baby was born on the 15th of February, right at 1:18 a.m. He said, you can have Valentine's Day. I'm taking the 15th. But my contractions, my surges started on the 13th in the evening, like 5 o'clock. And immediately, once I was like, I think this is real, because, we all have the feelings. You're like, is this it? Okay, I think this is real. I looked at my husband and said, I'm eating and I'm going to sleep. Carrie told me to go to sleep and to eat. And honestly, I think it was like the best thing. So for anybody listening, take the advice. I know you're going to be so excited. And there's so many emotions.
Miss your labor. You will not miss your labor. Like, go to sleep and get your head out of the game and let your body move forward. Oh my gosh,
put your eye mask on, put your fidget blinks on, do your meditations, listen to music, whatever, go to sleep, eat. So I did that. It was great. Slept, woke up in the morning, still having surges. They ended up getting about 2 minutes apart around 11 a.m. on the 14th. We did have a doula. We were in communications with her the whole time. She wasn't there obviously yet, but my surges were 2 minutes apart around 11, and texted her like, hey, they're getting, also, I think this is just like a first time thing. You're like, oh, they're 2 minutes apart. Like, we're gotta be close. You're not. Okay, you may be, but like, you're probably not. It was like
you never know, right?
You just don't.
You never know. And if you're so comfortable, you're probably not.
Exactly. So we just hung out of the house. One of my like trauma bond movies is School of Rocks. We just put that on. We just hung out. My dog took her to daycare so she could hang out with her friends while we were like getting her brother ready to come out.
Man, you can so tell that was your firstborn. We took the dog to go hang out with her friends.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for her brother to be born. For real. I'm right there with you.
Absolutely. She deserves, she deserves her time, her space, her enjoyment in this process. She did. Yeah, we just hung out the house. Big thing for me that was really helpful was like the hip squeezes. But my husband will tell you he started them too early, because then I just wanted them the whole time.
And I warned that in class. If you start that, you will be there the rest of the labor and your arms will die. Your back will be,
got a good workout.
No listens.
I know. It's because they're just trying, I'm like, oh, I think this would feel good. And he does it. And he's like, shoot, should have said something else. Yeah, we rocked it home. And then around 2 o'clock, maybe 3, my surgeries were definitely getting more intense. So my husband's name is Seneca. He texted our doula, Kim, just like letting her know, she's getting pretty uncomfortable. We're not really happy anymore. I'm not very funny anymore. Just letting you know. And funny enough, our doula actually was delivering another baby who was like 42 plus weeks. And she texted back, was like, hey, I'm delivering this baby, but mom's almost there. It'll be fine. Then I'll come and see you.
I mean, she wasn't delivering the baby. She was at another birth, helping a midwife deliver a baby. Yes.
Yes, sorry. She was not delivering.
But she was going to get Kim in trouble with the medical board. And
Kim's amazing. She did nothing wrong. Okay. Don't get mad at Kim. She's great. She's amazing. She's the best accent. But yeah, I'm not even paying attention. I'm not texting. I'm just like, this is intense.
You're in it.
I'm in it. So then I feel like around 4 o'clock, Julie shows up. Julie is just the saint. So Julie was our doula's backup because Kim was still out of birth. So Julie came, and Kim was saying, I think things all just happen how they're supposed to happen. Love Kim. Kim ended up being there towards very close to the birth, but Julie was with us basically the whole ride. And she was amazing. And I was like very comfortable. So I moved around the house, but it was going on. So then around 6 o'clock, Julie was like, you sound different. We should go to the hospital. So we got in the car. Fun tidbit of our story. We got down to the end of our street. My husband realized he forgot my wallet. So we get to turn around and go back to the house. And let me tell you, that is not the car ride that you want to extend any longer than you have to.
But much better than if he'd gotten halfway to Kaiser.
Exactly. And we're very lucky. We're only like 5-10 minutes from the hospital we were going to. But still, got my wallet, got to the hospital. Mind you, I'm like, we're having this baby. In my mind, I'm like, I've got to be like so dilated. I've got to be like ready to go.
I've got to be at 100 centimeters.
No, I've got to be like, this baby's falling out of me when we walk into this lobby. Okay, Kara said, have a baby in the lobby. And that's what I'm trying to do here.
I know. I'll give you $1,000 for a picture like that.
Not yet.
I'll do it.
We'll see. That was not quite what happened. So we we get checked into triage. I'm like losing my mind, everybody. We're just gonna be really transparent here. I'm like losing it. I'm like, this is a lot. And this baby's got to be coming out right this second. They check me. I let them know I'll get checked right at triage, but I don't want to get checked again if I don't need to be. Like, don't touch me, basically. They were all great. I will say, I'll give Kaiser a little shout out. I know everyone's story is different, but we were very fortunate to have a great team with triage and labor and delivery. They were all very well versed in natural delivery, and we had a nurse that did baby spinning. We were very fortunate. But I got checked and I was 1.5 centimeters dilated, but I was 90% of face. Exactly. And that was the peanut ball exercises. I will just attest to that, because there was no way that it was that intense and there was like 1.5 centimeters. I was, but.
And so baby was like, really low too. That's the baby was in position, did the work. And that's why, because when Seneca, I get random texts when I'm not the doula, because if I'm doing the placenta, right? So Seneca's been texting me the whole time, like, Valentine's Day baby, what's happening? Blah, blah, blah. And then he says, we're 1 centimeter. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, yeah, she's not getting back in the car. We're staying.
Yeah. Because when you're in labor and triage checks you, basically, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, their math is if you're not like 5 or 6 centimeters, you're not like an active labor. So you can go home. And I said, no, like, I'm not. I was like, I literally started looking at this. I said, I'm absolutely not getting back in that car. So I will be in the hallway, but like, I'm not. And they were great. We just stayed in triage. Yeah. I was like, we put on meditations in the triage room for a couple hours. And I like bounced on a ball, walked up and down the hallway, puked all over the bathroom, really fun stuff. Seneca like broke an ice pack in half. So there was like ice pack gel all over us. You know, it's the fun stuff. You just got to laugh with it, because at some point the baby's coming, whatever.
And it's all part of the story, right? Who cares? It's not that deep. It's just part of the kid's story, whatever.
We were just trying to have some fun. And then we got moved over to a labor and delivery room. So we also, when we checked into triage, it was like right at shift change, which I remember Care telling us about. And I was like, oh, shift change. But it actually worked out, at least for us, because we were right at shift change. So we talked to one set of nurses, but then literally within 5 minutes, our new set came in and they were with us the whole rest of the night. So it actually worked out okay. Yeah. So we ended up getting moved. I couldn't tell you what time, but we got moved to a labor and delivery room at some point when I was screaming loud enough. I don't know.
It was around 9 p.m. because I got a text.
Okay. It was around 9 p.m. Great. I'm glad you know the timeline.
Yeah, I have your timeline.
And we like got immediately in the shower. And I was like, I'll just sit here. Around 11:30, I was just like, I want to be checked. And I want to know where I'm at, because
I'm done.
I'm feeling like this is very intense and I'm getting over this, honestly, at this point. I started looking at my husband and I was like, you need to be okay with whatever decision I make, but I want to get checked. And of course, like, my husband was just like, sounds great. We'll get the doctor, like whatever you want, you know? And I got checked, and it was the only time I got checked throughout my labor, because I didn't get checked with any of my appointments either. But I was at 9 centimeters, and I was like, I can do one more, which may have been a little naive of me, because 1 centimeter could take 10 minutes or 10 hours. But in my mind, I was like, I've made it to 9. I can do one more.
And it's a mind game.
It is.
At that point, it's a mind game. Yeah.
Absolutely. At that point, Julie was still with us, and she had asked if I wanted to do the nitrous oxide, which I'd forgotten about at that point. I was like, sure, let's do it, as long as it's like not affecting the baby. And I remember her being like, I'm going to be really honest with you. It's not really like a pain reliever, but it might help your breathing. And I said, sure. Like, at this point, whatever. Like, I also remember
1 centimeter, girl. What gets me over that finish line?
Exactly.
Going
like,
there.
Whatever we need to do, flip me on my head. I don't care. Like, but just get me there. And I remember they were like, okay, we need to get a monitor on you, because this whole time I hadn't gotten a monitor put on. I was just like freewheeling it.
Wow, you really had a good set of nurses.
No, they were great. And then I had told them, I was like, I want a wireless one if I'm going to have a monitor. And they're like, okay, great. But they don't tell you, and just learn this from me, if you do want the monitor, you need to sit still for 30 minutes once they put the monitor on.
Oh, they did 30? Because usually it's like 12 to 15.
Oh, they told me 30, and I said, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
Because, and like I said, they were great. But like at this point, I was like 9 centimeters dilated. I was like feeling it. And they were like, okay, like we should put the monitor on you so we can just monitor the baby and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, because I wanted the wireless one that's like waterproof, whatever. And they're like, okay, but you need to sit in the bed for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I was like, you know what you say? You want to sit in that bed? You want to crawl on that bed and sit there? Like, the baby's fine. Let me tell you right now, the baby is fine. Like, we're not doing that. And I didn't. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to get back to the shower. Okay. So we didn't end up doing that. And they were fine with it. I don't know. So I ended up getting back in the bed because I got the nitrous oxide, which another fun story that I was told after was that they had two nitrous oxide machines. I don't know, but for our section, one was being used and the other one was like locked as it should be, like away. And they couldn't find the key. So I remember sitting there being like, this is taking a long time. I signed my forms. Also, you guys, they make you like sign waivers, which I get, but I'm like in labor. I don't know. That's not my signature. I can
Right.
barely hold this pen. You think is that really going to hold it if I need
Is
to?
that legally binding?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I was like, this line, I can't hold this thing. Okay. So I thought that was funny also. But yeah, they lost the key. So they had to break into a manager's office to like get the key. So again, 10 out of 10 for my staff. But I was just like, thank you for getting this. But yeah, and then an hour later, I got checked because they checked me again at 1 and I was at 10. And the doctor, just like you said, they're like, okay, don't push. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but like, I'm not pushing the baby coming.
And I'm not holding back because I was taught
Yeah,
I didn't have to.
exactly. And also, like, listen, I'm not trying to be in this state any longer. You know what I'm saying? The baby comes out, he's coming out. I was very fortunate. I like pushed 15 minutes and he was here at 118. So that was great. He did swallow some meconium, which is funny because his dad also swallowed meconium when he was born. But back then, you get taken to the NICU, and these days they just suck you out, which is great.
It's like a family tradition then.
It is. We have lots of family traditions in this birth. He was born, and he came out, and they put him right on my chest, and they sectioned him out. And like we learned in class, I was like waiting for him to be able to latch. And I told them, and again, I didn't really get pushback. But I just remember the doctor being like, okay, we're going to give you Pitocin to release the placenta. And I told her like, no, I want to wait. I want to have him latch and see if it'll drop by itself and then kind of go from there. And she was fine with that. And she's like, okay, we'll check again though in like 38 minutes because we don't like to go too long. I was like, okay, that's fine.
And that's really respectful because you knew what you wanted and you stated it and she's okay, 30 minutes because that is their kind of comfort level.
Yeah,
so
that's like
awesome.
their policy or whatever. But yeah, like I said, they were great. You could definitely tell when I said that her eyes were kind of like, but she did it. Like I said, she didn't give pushback. She was okay.
Asked for that.
Yeah. But the hard thing is because he had swallowed the meconium, they were like suctioning him out for a really long time. So he didn't actually latch until like 30 to 45 minutes. But so then the doctor came back and was like, we gotta like, because then they just pull on the cord to see if it's like loosening and it's not, which I'm also like, this is a weird feeling. But anyway, so then he finally latched and it was like 45 minutes and it dropped immediately. My body did what it was supposed to do, which I was very grateful for. But because it had stuck there for longer, there was more blood that came with it. So I ended up hemorrhaging with the placenta coming out, which was also like a wild ride. Thankfully, Kari was fine. He was on my chest the whole time. They never took him. My husband was right there with us. But then they were just like, okay, bleeding's not stopping.
Now
so
we're giving
gonna
you some drugs.
Yeah, like we're gonna give you this Pitocin. And I just remember, like I said, I was just so grateful that we had the knowledge because I was able to ask the questions and I didn't just feel helpless. Yeah, just give me whatever. I don't know what it is, but like, go ahead. Like I remember they gave me the shot of Pitocin. First I asked because I was like, I don't want any medication. But then at that point, I was like, okay, just explain it all to me. And as long as it's not going to affect my son, I'll take repercussions if I need to. So they gave me the shot and they were like, it's not doing anything. And I was like, okay. So then they were going to give me an IV, which I hadn't gotten a PICC line or an IV the whole time I was there, which also like surprisingly, they didn't really give me pushback on. I just told them no. And then guess what? And it was emergency. They did it.
Right.
It was fine. I don't remember them doing it, but they did it. And I just remember being like, hey, well, you just gave me like this shot of Pitocin. Why are you not giving me an IV? Like, would it have happened that quickly? Would it not? Can you just walk me through it? And they like were very great about it. They're like, yeah, this is why, blah, blah. IV didn't work. So then they gave me a shot. I don't know what it's called.
Lethargen.
Mm-hmm. And I remember the nurse came at me with this needle and I was like, what is that?
Like, this is keeping you out of the OR, my friend.
Yeah. And like, again, I just remember I was like, what is that? What are you giving me? And she like looked at the doctor and she was like, nobody told her what this was. And I was like, oh, you guys know me now. Thank you. Understand. And she was like annoyed at the team. And then she was like, this is like lethargy or whatever. Like, this is what it's doing. I was like, okay. So they gave me that. And then that didn't stop it. And then a little TMI, but then they would just put something on my butt, which was like the last.
That's side attack. So that's another medication. Yeah. And that can clamp down on the uterus and stop bleeding too. So they did the exact right protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the one thing I appreciate so much is one, like I said, they explained everything to me, but they also explained like the process of, okay, we're going to do this. And if that doesn't work, then like, we'll do this. We'll explain it more when it happens. But I also remember them being like, hey, we're going to do the suppository, but if that doesn't work, like we might need to go, you might need to have surgery. This is like our last stop. If we can't get it to stop with this, then we may need to take bigger precautions here, which I really appreciated. They were never just like, I don't know, throwing stuff at me and like poking and prodding.
It's way less traumatic for one, that you understand the information and the knowledge of it. You also understand that you have a history of in your family of hemorrhage. So you studied up on it. And the fact that you had requested information all the time, that's what keeps the trauma at bay.
Absolutely. And I was just so grateful for that. Thankfully, after all my combos, it worked and I was fine. And then they had to scoop out all the blood clots, which is just
not
I feel like it's just as painful, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I just remember the doctor at that point, the midwife that delivered, because she was the one that was going to take the blood clots out. And she was like, so you want painkillers now? Are you sure you don't want some painkillers for this? Because this is not going to be fun. And I just remember asking her, like, what would that be? Like, what painkillers would you be giving me? And she like told me, and I was like, yeah, no. And she looked at me and I was like, let's go. Like, I don't know.
You're like, give me a piece of plastic to chew on, but I'm not going to have any painkillers.
My sweet husband is just like, can she use the gas again? And they were like, yeah, do that.
Oh,
do
that's awesome. They did that.
Yeah, he was the one that was like, it's still here. Like, why don't you use this? And I was like, okay, so I used that. And then I had a sweet nurse just hold my hand. I probably broke all of her fingers. She probably had to go do Alenna or something. I don't know, but they were probably broken.
You just didn't want any IV medication to affect the way you were bonding with the baby? Is that you didn't want that in your system for breast milk?
A couple of reasons. So one, I didn't want anything directly going towards to the baby. Like when I was pregnant, I just done a lot of research on like drugs affecting babies, and I have a strong history of addiction in my family, and my husband's family also has a strong history of addiction. So we're just very aware of those things. And then once the baby was out, like I said, I was more, if it's just my body, as long as I know what it is, like I can deal with it. But when it came to the painkillers, because I know we have such a strong history of addiction and I have very addictive tendencies, I was like, I would rather ride this out than potentially put myself or my family at risk.
Girl,
with
that
me getting
is
those.
Courage when it's being pushed and actually even placed in front of you like, hey, wow, that's a big choice.
Thanks. Yeah, it's something we talked a lot about, and it's just very important. I think I'm fortunate to be able to take the step back and be like, yes, this would, I'm sure, be helpful in this next 30 minutes of pain, but God forbid, this is now a downward spiral for me that is years of pain. And I was really glad that I was able to do that. I was glad that my husband was never like, you should do it. He knows better. But he was right there with me. Here's another option. What about this? Can we do this instead? So you still do have some comfort, which I really appreciated him. At least just being aware.
That's teamwork, situation. Man.
Yeah.
Like, he was great. You guys were on the same page and knew that was really important to you. That's fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, and then we got moved to our little, and they call it like a suite room.
Postpartum room.
Yeah, postpartum room, and did our thing. FaceTime the family. Had our baby. But yeah.
What would you say was your theme for the birth, or what you took the most out of that journey personally?
Personally, I think I took out of it that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. And I'm a lot, like, this is going to be like sad, but like I'm a lot smarter than I think I give myself credit for. To be able to do the work and get the education and be strong in my wants and desires for this delivery for myself and this baby, I think were really big for me. They were really healing for me too, just like some personal backstory. But yeah, but also I think, like I mentioned, I am very type A and I am very control freaky. And I think this labor also taught me you can like educate yourself and have all these tools and still go with the flow in some sense. And I think that was really important to me, for me to learn, especially in parenthood. Like, you can't control it all. And you can't put it in this box like you can when you're just taking care of yourself, or even you and a partner. Now the baby's world. And guess what? If he doesn't want to take a nap, then he's not going to. And if he doesn't want to sleep, then he's not going to. And like, I'm not going to force it. So here we are. And I think that was really important for me to learn.
It's a piece of surrender that until you're in it and up against it, you can prepare for it, but you literally have to make that choice constantly. I got it. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And just being able to trust your body. I think that labor is one of the only times, at least that I can think of or I've been through, where you have to fully trust that your body just is doing it. And even through pregnancy, right? Like I remember there'd be times where I'd look at my husband, I'd be like, I'm making bones right now. What are you doing? Like, I just have to trust it. I just have to trust that it's happening. Thankfully it was, but like you just have to trust that it's all happening how it's supposed to and working how it's supposed to, and that all the functions are like going. And you have to give it up, because guess what? I couldn't tell my body to start like labor, and I couldn't tell my son to come out faster. Like I had to trust that like me and my body and my son were like working in unison, and that the timing was exactly what it was supposed to be, and that we were safe, and that if something were to happen, did happen, that we were going to be taken care of, and that like it was all going to be okay.
And isn't it crazy that we feel like in America that we have to induce because our body's not going into labor? Like it's just not going into labor. And I'm like, really? Because has there ever been a woman that's been pregnant for an eternity? Like it's not a thing, and it's never been a thing, but we have lost patience, man. We just 39 weeks, 40 weeks, it's time. Babies are coming out. And why? They might not be quite ready. Why are we forcing and pushing? But we really, in this culture, think that our bodies are going to fail us. And I think that's what keeps us down. There's no surrender. There's no understanding of who we are and how we are as a being if we don't trust that. And we're taught not to trust it. So I don't blame anybody for not trusting it, because culturally we're saturated in you're not enough and you're not going to be able to do this by yourself.
Like so we're also told to like trust our medical team, which I'm not saying not to. They went to school and they do have more education than us and practice than us, as they should. But you can still educate yourself in things outside of your medical team. And I think that there are a lot of convoluted things going on in our medical system also, just personal to bit. But you need to be able to learn and like educate yourself, because you are going to have the best interest for yourself, because like, your doctor wants to keep you safe. Absolutely. I don't think there's any doctor out there that does not want you to be safe and to be like healthy. But they don't have time to do specific research for every single one of their patients and educate themselves for every single one of their patients. There's just not enough time. You need to go into it with the education and the knowledge for yourself to work with your team. You don't need to be a one-man band. I hope nobody feels like they're all alone when they have a medical team, but you can also bring things to the table. It's not just whatever they say is correct or what's going to be best for you or your family. And I think
And
that's
I
just so
think that
important.
it's that individuality that we've missed, right? Where we educate doctors with here's
Mm-hmm.
what will keep the masses safe and here's what keeps you from being sued, right? Because there's that double for-profit
Yeah.
system. Doctors really do have to worry about that. And then when we don't have any education and don't know how our bodies even work and what's happening during labor, I hear that all the time. Like, at my first birth, I didn't even know what my body was trying to do. All I knew is it was uncomfortable and I was resisting it, which made it
Mm-hmm.
50,000 times worse. And they had
Mm-hmm.
no skills around comfort, no tools to use, right? It's an out of control experience that doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if we come in with both of those things, like we're just going to turn over our power to the people who know everything,
Mm-hmm.
they may not know you as well to know everything that would work for you. We don't know your trauma. We don't know your back history. We don't know your relationship status. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything for you, the birthing person, to make it best for you, because it's not individualized care. So if you come in deficient in that, without autonomy and without a voice, it's a whole different experience where it could have been so much better.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important. One thing I feel like I took a lot from your class, but I remember one thing just stuck so hard to me was that you're hiring this birth team. Like they are working for you. And I remember when we went to go meet our midwife for the first time, I remember being like, yeah, well, we want to like see if we're going to be a good fit. And I just remember, and thankfully we were like, she was great. We kept her. She was awesome. But I just remember her kind of like taking a step back and being like, oh, okay. Almost like proud, like glad, but also I don't know if she'd ever had anyone do that. But I just remember being like, if this isn't a good fit, then we're going to find somebody else, because like, we want it to be a good fit for both of us. And I don't want you to dread us coming in, and I don't want to dread coming in here. Like I just remember, I tell people that now all the time. Remember, if you go to an OB appointment or to a doctor's appointment or whatever, and your gut is off or they're rude or they give you pushback on something that you feel very strongly about, like it is okay to ask for somebody else. They may not like it, but it doesn't matter.
You literally are hiring consultants,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all the power is always with you. It is your body, it's your family. Once again, we're not taught that. We're taught white coat, concede whatever
Mhm.
they need, whatever they do. And I was the same way. I thought, I'll go to that hospital. They know what they're doing. They can just load me up on drugs. I am so cool with that. I'll burp the baby out of my mouth if I need to. Like they know everything. But I had no concept of what my birth could be at that point. And I'm so grateful that everything switched where I was allergic to the drugs and I couldn't just turn it over to everybody else. But I just wish we could get more education in earlier, like high
Mhm.
school, where we
Mhm.
just give a tidbit enough to be like, it really could be cool.
Yeah.
Well, and as far as postpartum and preparing for that, because that is going to be the rest of everybody's life, and that's the one place where we completely slack off on preparing, what would be your best advice for parents to prepare for postpartum ahead of time?
I feel like I have a couple. I think one, make sure you have food, healthy, but just like home cooked meals. If you can get something in the freezer, at least for a little bit, or like have somebody, if you have a sibling or a parent or a friend that's willing to help you in that like nesting season, fill your freezer. And make sure that the instructions on it are like dummy proof for your partner because you're not going to be cooking it.
Yeah, it
That's
looks
something I was
so
really
easy.
like. I remember writing them and then showing my husband every single one. Does this make sense? Could you do this? Because I'm not going to be coaching you through it. And it was great. And he did great. But have food, have snacks. The meals are great, but also I'm gluten free. So like that also is a little difficult. I can't just grab things and go. But I made protein, banana, chocolate chip muffins, a crap ton of them, and made them, put them in the freezer. And I kid you not, I feel like the first 2 weeks, all I ate were like applesauce pouches and those muffins. And like thankfully they had protein in them and like fiber and it was fine. But like, because I just wanted to pop something in and go, because you're tired. Have protein shakes. Have things that are easy to grab and eat because you're going to need to be nourishing yourself to take care of yourself, take care of this baby. So like food is another big thing. Like, make sure you have food. Make sure that you like, I don't know, everyone talks about a village. And yeah, villages are great and amazing. I don't have a village. I'll just be very transparent on that. I have a sister and I love her and she's my best friend and she basically is our village, but that's about it. If you do have those people though that you do trust, let them help you if they want to help you and you feel like they can respect your boundaries and respect your wishes and clean the house and not just pest you to hold the baby, things like that. Do that. Let them help you because they want to serve you and they want to help you. Um,
And
but
it's hard
also,
for us to take help when we're the one that's used to keeping our house clean and we want it a certain way. But
yeah,
man,
it's very
after that
difficult.
baby comes,
Yeah.
stay chill so your baby can regulate and let
Mm-hmm.
people help.
Absolutely. And know what your boundaries are. Like if you have time before the baby comes, if it's just you or if you have a partner, talk with them or like just talk to yourself and what do you want that to look like? If someone comes into your space postpartum, and it could change once you're in postpartum, but like, think about what you want that to look like. I know for us, outside of my sister, no one met our son for 8 weeks because I didn't want them in my space personally. And he was born in February, so it was cold and flu and RSV and everybody was sick. So I just didn't want it. But if someone comes into the house, like, are you comfortable with them asking to hold a baby? Or would you prefer to have a checklist of, hey, here, vacuum or mop or clean the bathroom or do the dishes? But think of things that you would actually feel comfortable or help that's actually helpful. Because I think a lot of people mean when they want to like help with the baby, but
But they really just want to hold the
they
baby
just
so
want to
you can
hold
go
the baby.
shower and you can
Or else you
pick
can
up your
like
dishes
do
or
things. Yeah.
whatever.
Have them clean the dishes. If they really love you and they really want to help, they won't care. They'll do it. So I would say figuring out what help looks like, what you want that to look like, and who that can be super helpful. And I think my last thing is I think because of my hemorrhaging, I had a different attachment to my son than I expected. I disassociated when that was happening because there's a small backstory. My mom hemorrhaged with me. She almost died, had to have surgery, and very much almost died. So I have figured out that's basically what I did. I thought, like, well, I don't want to attach because if I die, I don't want him attached to me. He needs to be attached to his dad. And that
Isn't
was
it
really, really
amazing
hard.
where our mom mind goes
Yeah.
to protect our young?
And I mean, I was only pushing him away, okay? But I just like emotionally kind of shut down. And that was really difficult because I think we're all told you have this baby and it's amazing and you've never had a love like this. And it's like sunshines and puppies and rainbows. And like, yeah, postpartum's hard, but it's fine because you like love this baby. And I love my son. I have loved him since he was born. But I did not get that overwhelming rush. And it took a long time for me to even feel like connected with him and I had to work through that. So I think I always try and tell people if even if your birth is not traumatic or something big doesn't happen. If you don't have that connection right away, that's actually a lot more common than we really know or we talk about. There's nothing wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with your birth or your baby or your connection. Sometimes it just takes a while, and that's okay. And I feel like that's something that I, thankfully, in the communities I was a part of, got to hear from a couple other women, but I needed that. So just from me to you, if that happens, nothing's wrong with you. It will get there. No one should be questioning your love for your child. We know you love them, and it's okay, because that was really difficult.
And you had also had the lived experience with your mom
Mm-hmm.
of not immediately bonding,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we had talked about that of you are reliving an experience you've already had, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's with your son,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out the way to connect so that you can be stable with him
Mm-hmm.
takes time
Mm-hmm.
because you're also working through what happened with your mom.
Exactly.
And there are people who don't have that history who
Mm-hmm.
still do not feel that connection.
Yeah.
And you're right, it can be very normal
Mm-hmm.
and does happen quite often, but
Mm-hmm.
people don't talk about it because they're shamed. They have shame around
Yeah.
it.
Especially as a mom or the birthing person, I feel like it's supposed to be like this instinct, like, and sometimes it is for people, and that's great and that's amazing. But if it's not, it's also okay. You're not a bad parent. You're not going to be a bad parent because it wasn't right away. You will have the bond you're supposed to have with your child, and they love you and you love them, and that's fine.
Absolutely. And it's a conscious understanding. I wouldn't say choice, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding that connection and the bond is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just blossoming in a different way.
Yeah. The last thing I think I would advise is if you're hoping to breastfeed, it's hard, you guys.
Oh, it's
Okay,
so
it
hard.
is. Let me just break this social barrier. It is not just happening. Okay, it does not just happen. The baby does not just latch, and you're just like, whoop de doo, this is great. I mean, maybe for you, and I would really hope that for you, but it's very difficult. You need to learn how to do it. Your baby is learning how to do it. It is not just this like innate thing. Okay, find resources.
It is a two-party
Find
learning system.
resources.
It is so true. It is a two-party
Yes.
learning system, which is why I say, please take a breastfeeding class before. And
Yes.
everyone goes, it's natural. It'll just happen. I'm like, no, you need to understand what those hormones are doing and what your body is doing. At least
Mm-hmm.
you know it on your end,
Mm-hmm.
because that baby's going to come with their own set of stuff too.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen to care. Take a breastfeeding class. And I feel like you said this in class too, but if you can, we took one with Kaiser and it was fine. And we were actually surprised by it. It was good. But if you can take one there and then one outside of that, and we ended up taking one with our doula as well, and it was great. But it's nice to just get the contrast.
There is a contrast. Out of hospital classes are totally different than in hospital classes, unless
Absolutely.
they're taught by a hospital teacher that teaches that
Exactly.
curriculum. But yeah, they are
Exactly.
different. And out of hospital has a different set of resources for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, please take the classes and find find a group if you can. Find a place to go, because like once you're postpartum, you will most likely need help. And there's nothing wrong if you need help. Also, back to what I was saying before, like there's nothing wrong with you if you need help. Like it is not easy, and that is okay. It is not easy to breastfeed, and it can be a very hard journey. Please get help. Please find help. I know. I think you even talked about this, Carol. Cafe of Life in Pacific, is it Pacific Beach? They have a breastfeeding class. Honestly, probably saved my breastfeeding journey. I went 4 days postpartum. Y'all, hot mess. I mean, I'm already a hot mess, but I am 4 days postpartum. I am engorged. I haven't slept. One of the doulas there asked me if I was sick because I was so pale because I just hadn't slept. I was like, no, just the baby. In tears. I could barely speak, okay? But like, they just held my hands and they just walked me through it. They told me what nipple shields were. Didn't know those were before because those are very helpful. But yeah, just find help, because there's nothing wrong with finding the help, and to have the hands-on help from like people, one, that have been there, have had children, have breastfed, are in that space and are in a similar mindset of you, is just very helpful.
And one of the things that I encourage in class is for when you're pregnant to find the breastfeeding support groups in your area, because
Mm-hmm.
one's going to be too crunchy, one's going to be just crunchy enough, or one's going to be
Mm-hmm.
perfect for you, whatever. So you know your people, and now you've got face-to-face contact with a lactation consultant in that group.
Yes.
But those people, when you're pregnant and you sit in there and listen to what their challenges were and how they overcame them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're watching breastfeeding, like it's a learned behavior and we don't see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can be in there and listen to what comes out of those people's mouths, that's like gold. You can't get that in a breastfeeding class. But
No.
sitting in community
Mhm.
with the breastfeeding going on around you, it's a game changer. And you've got the support in the community that you need.
Yeah,
Like, I
absolutely.
can't stress that enough. Do it when you're pregnant. Go 2 or 3 times. Like, you can go to the same group,
Mhm.
but then you know where to park, because when you have a baby and a stroller, maybe you've had a cesarean, so now you've had a surgery, that you're, where do I park? And I've got a diaper bag and all the things plus a baby and I'm lifting.
Mhm.
Knowing that stuff ahead of time takes the stress out of going. Yes, please go when you're pregnant, as well as take the breastfeeding class when you're
Yeah.
pregnant early.
I will say firsthand, please do that because it can be a game changer. And however you decide to feed your child, you're keeping your kid alive, and that's great. Then you're doing amazing. But if that's a
Well,
part of the
and
journey
even
that
if
you
you're
want,
bottle
like
feeding, you're
exactly,
still postpartum, super
exactly. But
tired.
that's the thing.
They're still your resources.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
can still go and sit in there. And I tell my moms too, you can't judge someone if they are bottle feeding. You don't know if it's breast milk. You don't know, who knows what their circumstance is. There's no judgment there.
Exactly.
They're just as tired as you, and they're having the same issues with their partner, and they're not sleeping.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
welcome whoever shows up and be
exactly.
part of that community for them, because you might be in those shoes sometime.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, like you said, just emphasize on that. Also just hearing the struggles of other people. So I'm sure it's pretty similar in every group. Like the group that we would go to, like we got into like introduction, like they would say, okay, these are like the lactones, like these are all people that are here today to like help for resources. And then like we would all kind of go around like and just say like, oh, this is me, this is my baby, this is how old they are, and this is like why we're here today, if like whatever issue. And then you would kind of just like group up. No, it's amazing. It's amazing. I highly recommend. But then you could be like, oh, you also are struggling with this or whatever. Great. Let me go talk to that parent and figure it out. Or great, let's group together. Or like, it makes you feel less alone, you know, because I feel like in this journey of like between pregnancy, labor, and postpartum, there are so many things that societally are not talked about that are so much more common than we know because it's not like cute to talk about. Talk about it. Talk about it. If you are going through something in pregnancy and you have someone that you're like friends with that has been through pregnancy, ask them about it because they probably know something about it. They probably went through and just didn't say it. Tell
And
me about it.
there's also the thing where you might get really poor advice from people in your community because you're talking about it. If you're questioning and you're like, oh, I don't know about that, please call a birth educator.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just ask them, or a doula, and
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, do you have a resource for this? Because I heard this and it freaked me out.
Yeah,
And they may be like,
absolutely.
oh, that was their experience, but it doesn't have to be like that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you're having a little
Yeah.
apprehension, or it fills you full of more fear,
Yeah,
please step out of that and go to a professional before, while you're pregnant, and get
absolutely.
that, get the resource that you need.
Absolutely. I feel like I got really good at asking people because people, if you're listening to this and you are pregnant, have been pregnant, you know, people just like to give you advice about everything. And I got really good at being like, oh, how old is your child? Because guess what? If your child is like 15 or older, I'm probably not going to listen to you. Respectfully, so much has changed in the last 15 years. And I don't know your background. I don't know how you birthed. I don't know your mindset behind it. Like, take it with a grain of salt. They mean well. They always mean well. But like the name suggestions they're giving you, you know, telling you how you're carrying, telling you how to breastfeed or this or that. Just say, oh, thanks. Just walk along. Because it just is
Yeah.
what it is.
At the end of the day, we need the right resources. We need to find our own village and community support. And I
Mm-hmm.
know you don't have a village, but you found one.
I did. I made village.
Yeah, you made a village because we have to. We
Absolutely.
absolutely have to. I'm so glad you came today. I really appreciate you being so honest and vulnerable with your story. And I'm glad that my listeners got to hear that. So if you have any questions or comments about that, please leave them down below and we will get back to those. And please tell Seneca hello for us.
I will. He said he couldn't be here, but he's excited to see it.
Yeah, but he's got to take that baby on a walk. So there's that.
Yeah, listen, Mama need a minute.
Exactly. And we will see everybody next week.
Thank you so much, Kira.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember, it's your body, your choice, and finding your voice is your power. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all the places, and go to birtheducationcenter.com for our blog and more online education classes. And we'll see you next week.